What's up, y'all? Will here at Schedulefly. This episode is sponsored by Schedulefly. If your restaurant needs a very simple, easy way to schedule and communicate with staff, we'd love the chance to serve you. We got a 30-day free trial, no commitments. We have no setup fees, no cancellation fees, no contracts. Just simple, easy, super easy, web-based restaurant employee scheduling and communication, and legendary customer support. And then we spend a lot of time doing stuff like this, sharing our customer stories on our podcast. But if you're on pencil and paper, if you're on Excel, if you're on a scheduling tool that you don't love, that doesn't have incredible support or is hard to use, give us a shout. Happy to talk with you. Check out our website, schedulefly.com. My phone number is on there, my personal cell, so feel free to give me a call. Happy to help anytime. We'd love a chance to serve you. We serve about 6,000 restaurants, coffee shops, wineries, distilleries, cideries, boutique hotels, donut shops, you name it. If you're in hospitality, we have a great tool for you, and we take great care of our customers. The episode is also sponsored by Flip. Flip is a modern, innovative mobile banking company, and it's freaking awesome. They have a debit card, no setup fee, no fees, no credit check, no ATM fees, access to 37,000 ATMs around the country. But the cool thing about Flip is, unlike most debit cards, it has a really cool rewards system. So where credit cards often have rewards, Flip's debit card does. So every time you use this thing, you take your phone out and you have a Flip app and you spin the Flip wheel, and you can win up to 110% cash back. If you don't win cash, you might win Flip coins. If you get enough Flip coins, they have a marketplace where you can use those. So this thing is very cool. We know the guys at Flip. We're super fired up at Schedulefly to have them as a partner. And we have an offer with all of our customers and any of you listening to this podcast. If you go sign up for Flip, and by the way, that's Flip, FLYP. So look for Flip Money. It's flipmoney.com, or look for Flip Money in your app store. Download that app. Throw $100 in your account. Once you spend $100, you get $20 back if you use the offer code Schedulefly. So make sure to use that offer code Schedulefly. And again, once you spend $100, you get $20 just popped right into your account. And using that flip wheel is cool and fun. And there's a leaderboard showing how many people have won money and how much they've won and who's won the most. And I think somebody literally won like 100% the other day. But go check it out, flipmoney.com. And we're proud to have them as a sponsor. Okay, so here we go. This is a fun episode. This is with Oliver Koch. He's a co-owner at East Bower Cider Company in Raleigh, North Carolina. The first hard cidery in Raleigh. I think ciders are probably where, breweries and brew pubs were 20, 25 years ago. They're just starting to pop up. This place is extremely well designed, fun people, fun atmosphere, and most importantly, great cider. I've never been a cider person. I don't even remember if or when I've had hard cider, but I tried some after this interview and it was excellent. I mean, really, really good. So I'm going to start adding some cider into my repertoire when I go out, for sure. So this is a cool story. These guys just got this place opened. They got a lot of work ahead with attracting and building, a loyal customer base and taking great care of the people that they serve, and they're well suited for it. They have a long history in the actually, both of them were in the beer world for a long time, and kind of grew up in it and have been in it a long time, and threw their shingle out and opened their first business together. And we love these kinds of stories. We love seeing people that are taking that risk and going out there and doing something new. They're out of the gates hot, and they're doing great work, and people love going there and love their cider. And Oliver's a lot of fun to talk to, and we just kind of went all over the place. Learned a lot about how cider's made and how they're getting it's coming from apples. So if you're in Raleigh, like, where do the apples come from, or how do you get the raw materials, and so on and so forth. So, but also just talked about the daunting task of starting and running a business and what all comes with that, and pros and cons and ups and downs and so forth. So great interview, great conversation, great customer to have for Schedule Fly. So we're proud to serve these folks. And with that, enjoy the episode. More coming soon. See you. Okay, well, we're live.
Cool.
We're taking some pictures. Awesome.
We have a bossy social media person, so we
you
know
gotta,
to take pictures.
You got to keep them happy. Yeah. All right. Well, Oliver, introduce yourself.
Sure. I'm Oliver Koch. I am the co-owner here at East Bower Cider Company.
Raleigh, North Carolina.
Raleigh, North Carolina.
Place is beautiful.
Thank you much.
So we're definitely going to talk about the design.
Sure.
That's for sure, man. But so let's go. You were getting into this a little bit, but so just tell me the backstory.
Sure, absolutely.
How you and your partner Dustin got connected, and just how this all came about.
We're both actually from Athens, Georgia, down where the University of Georgia is, and so we both went to the University of Georgia, and we met while I was a bar manager for a cocktail bar called Highwire.
Okay.
And Dustin was actually the Athens rep for Terrapin Beer Company, based out of Athens, Georgia. And so Dustin actually had probably the best job any college kid could ever ask for. Is he worked for a brewery and got to go around and sell beer and drink beer and do ideas. And back then it was kind of shooting fish in a barrel in Athens. So it was something I always wanted to do. That's as soon as I met him and his boss, another Dustin, I knew that I wanted to be in that industry in some facet. So we met then. He continued on with Terrapin up into North Carolina, so he moved here first, probably about 13 years ago, something like that, and was running basically the Mid-Atlantic for Terrapin. And when I graduated, I worked for a beer bar in Athens called Trapeze. It was one of the first beer bars in the state, really. Athens, I mean, probably still is like this, but Athens was very Bud Miller Coors. It's a college town through and through. So the owner of Trapeze was, I'm opening a craft beer bar. I'm not going to carry any of those. And a lot of people were like, well, that's dumb. And he proved a good amount of people wrong, and Trapeze became a pretty good place. And through that connection, I actually got an interview with a brewery called Rogue Ale and Spirits out in Newport, Oregon. Since I was born and raised in Athens, I think I wanted to get as far away as possible from it.
That's
after
a long
college.
way, yeah.
So I moved to Newport, Oregon, on the coast of Oregon, and worked for Rogue, kind of as an assistant to the head of sales for about a year, and then I transitioned into a sales rep, moved to Portland, Oregon, and worked there for another 2 years. And then Terrapin was expanding. Terrapin was always kind of my goal to work for. Dustin actually hired me to work for Terrapin in Pennsylvania. So I moved to Philly and ran New Jersey, Philly, Virginia, and then kind of opened up D.C., Maryland. And then Dustin, as soon as he hired me, he went to Bell's, basically. He went to Bell's Brewery out of Kalamazoo, Michigan, and worked there for the last 8 years, basically, and then I worked for Terrapin for the remainder of the time. I moved to North Carolina when he went to Bell's and ran South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia, and a bunch of other places, and had reps and everything. And Terrapin was purchased by Miller Coors completely in 2017. And so I stuck it out for 2 years, and just kind of knew I always wanted to do something else. And so I actually had this idea for a cidery. As two beer guys, through and through, cider was kind of something that wasn't really in our mirror. We didn't really think about it too much. It was kind of that sweet thing over there. Oh, sorry. And it wasn't marketed towards people like us, right? So cider wasn't supposed to be it was girly and it was sweet and it was over there.
Yeah, right.
And then we started having experiences with new American ciders. So cideries like Shacksbury out of Vermont and Molly Chompers out of Western North Carolina, same with Bottis and Barrel, and a light bulb kind of hit that was like, oh wow, this is actually an amazing beverage, and it doesn't have to be sweet, and this can be as local as we want it to be. And so I had the idea, and through the help of multiple different friends, it became sort of a reality. So I quit my job with Terrapin in 2019, towards the end of 2019, to focus on building the cidery. We had a location kind of south of Raleigh, about south of the Beltline, and designed, signed, everything. And of course, COVID hit. So, everyone has a COVID story and everyone's different. And luckily, during that time, I was working for our friends, Chris and Woody at Trophy Brewing Company. They were just kind of giving me something to do, giving me health insurance, really. So I was managing their brewery. I worked at the pizza place. I ran State of Beer, kind of just all over the place. And so they really helped me out. And when the pandemic hit, I knew that I was going to be delayed even longer. Yeah. So we kind of stayed the course. I stayed with Trophy, and luckily we were able to find this spot. This was, when we first looked at it, it was a roof and some beams, basically.
Is this a new building, or is it a renovated
So it's an old building,
okay.
but it's renovated. So it's basically, everything from the walls to everything is brand new.
It looks brand new.
Yeah, so we are the second thing opened in this location. So this is phase one of East End Market.
Okay.
There's a co-working space open. Eventually, there's probably in about a few weeks, there's going to be a French chop house called East End Chop House. And it's a restaurateur by the name of Giorgio, who's done Rosewater here and a ton of other places.
Wow,
so he's opening soon. And then there's a bunch of other stuff that we don't really know quite yet, but we're kind of the first. So we found this, signed in April of 2021, and through them getting us our cold dark shell, and then our construction started, we opened in August.
Opened in August.
So right now we are focusing on, we don't have our federal license yet. It's moving a little slow at the moment.
Your federal license. So.
It's our TTB license.
Okay.
So we have everything. We are ready to make our own cider, but we are not legally allowed to yet. Right now we are just featuring the ciders around the state and around the country that we love.
Okay, gotcha.
As long as curated beer list, wine list, snacks, and all that other stuff. So we want to be an educator for cider until we can actually have our own. And then go from there.
Gotcha. Okay. So when did you think you'd have the TTB license?
Like a long time ago.
Probably a while ago, huh?
This is our first time doing anything like this, and I think during this period in our history, this is a hard time to be doing anything like this. So licenses were not our friends. We finally, we got delayed on zoning, we got delayed on health, we got delayed on all sorts of things that we didn't really know too much about. The health, it was just little tiny things. Zoning, we had a structure outside that we weren't able to build, but we didn't resubmit, so we had to wait more to resubmit and everything. Truthfully, I thought we were going to have this over a month ago, but we're really just up to the mercy of the government at the moment.
So you really don't have any idea when it'll be?
It should have been weeks ago.
Yeah.
So it's literally, it's something we probably check our email, every other hour to see.
Can you hound them and just kind of stay on it?
We tried. So I actually hired a lawyer in D.C. That does with this type of stuff. He put it all together. He knows the people. We were told it was going to be expedited, and it's just really a waiting game, and it's definitely not been expedited. So I think, as a lot of our government systems, everything's a little bit backed up at the moment. So we didn't want to wait to open. So we decided to open with 8 ciders, but all from cideries that we want to emulate or proud of, have met, have known, and liquid that we like.
Gotcha. Yeah. Who designed this? This place is freaking beautiful.
So there's a few different iterations of that. So we actually went with an architect out of Kansas City, right? Yes. I always get those kind of confused. Their name is Kem, KEM Studios, and they are a large and pretty impressive architect out of Kansas City, and they do large, massive, modern scale. So we're kind of a small deal for them, but I think we're one of their first like steps into Raleigh. We met them through our project managers, and we decided they gave us these plans for these absolutely beautiful projects. So we decided we wanted to go with them and felt like it was the right idea. So through the new world and everything costing more than it used to, architects and budgets don't seem to get along.
Yeah, right.
So we definitely had to value engineer a bunch of things. So
What's an example of that?
Outdoors, we were going to have this massive structure that was going to be, heated and wind and, all sorts of stuff. And there was going to be a lot more aesthetic things that I think when it came down to value engineering that we had to kind of get rid of without really sacrificing. So the bar that you see here, it's almost kind of this box within this large building. So our ceilings are around 30 feet. And so the bar is kind of built in between the two original beams that were in this 3,000 square foot space.
Yeah, okay.
So we definitely worked a lot with them to get our production area. It's a small production area, so every square foot is definitely designed. Our cooler is huge because cider we had to store cold and do that type of thing, and so they were fantastic with working with our space. And I was worried about it seeming too small, but it doesn't. And they did a great job with that. And we also have a 3,000 square foot patio, which, during the pandemic, we realized that was one of the most important things to have, and especially this type of area where we have families and people with dogs, and, we're in the heart of Raleigh right now. So we're very excited about our location. So, but as far as like furniture and color choices was kind of me working with the architect to kind of create this space that doesn't feel like every other brewery really in Raleigh. So us being in the positions that we've had, we've been to a lot of different breweries and seen some of the most beautiful ones in the country and seen some that just look like a brewery.
Right.
And I wanted this space to have kind of a green feel. Obviously, it's very green in here.
Sure,
so lots of plants.
Right.
Our name is East Bower, and Bower is a shaded area within a garden for people to gather.
Okay. Yeah.
And that's kind of how we went from that. And so the architects are very creative and kind of used some of our buzzwords and pictures and kind of came up with this.
Well, they did a phenomenal job. I want to make sure to get some of the pictures y'all have, for when we put something on Instagram about this. I'd love to, include those.
Yeah, and then our tables were handmade here in Raleigh by a company named Rebuild. Our sign was done by a friend of ours, Joe, who goes by Special Guest, who does a lot of sign work in Raleigh. I mean, if you've seen a mural or something on the side of a building, it's probably Joe. And so we try to incorporate as much local and, have the design flow but not be too cafeteria at the same time.
Right.
So, and that's where we landed right now.
Well, they did an amazing job. Just really impressive to walk in here. It's, you want to just start looking around immediately. It's really awesome. I'm looking over there at those tanks right now. Yeah. A lot of equipment.
Mm-hmm.
Is that all new, or can you buy those used? Or?
So two of the little guys are new. Those are 250 gallon. Is that right? 250 gallon? Yes. And then the Bright is 300. Oh, 1,000. Yeah. And then the big guy, who we've named Wolfman. Okay. Yeah. And the Bright's a 10 barrel, and then the big guy who we named Wolfman is 1,000 gallons. And we actually acquired that from a cidery in Charlotte that went under Good Road.
Okay.
So they had an auction, and we bought it. We were all happy, and then we realized we had to get it out in like 3 days. And so basically Dustin's dad came up from Georgia with his trailer and took a long, long time, and we got it up here, and we actually got to store it at Trophy while we were still building. So another shout out to those guys. And then actually Les Stewart, the brewmaster of Trophy, helped us get it over here and stand it up. we actually stood it up outside first, and we're just going to scoot it in. Then we realized we didn't have enough space, so we had to put it back down, scoot it in, and then lift it up. So it's been.
When you say lift it up, like
you literally had to like with our pallet jack basically get this thing to this giant thing. It's on its side.
Yeah.
That's how you deliver it. You can't have it straight up. And it was probably very comical to watch us do this for the whole time. But I'm still so impressed that we actually got it in ourselves.
Yeah.
We actually stood it up and then realized we couldn't get it through the door, so we had to lower it back down.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying. So
gosh,
we've had a lot of learning experiences.
Big learning
throughout
curve.
This.
Yeah, right.
So we've had some funny moments for sure, but I'm super happy we didn't break it and that it's in here. And can't wait to use it.
Les is a great dude. He's been over there a long time. We actually made a film about him years ago called The Brewer. I mean, it was like one of these we were doing these little short films. But I was fascinated with that guy.
Yeah, we've known him for absolutely years. He's my neighbor down the street, and you couldn't ask for a nicer guy, honestly. So, and the wealth of knowledge from someone that's not. I mean, he's 40.
Yeah.
But he's got that knowledge that like your grandfather had. He
right.
can just build things and
totally.
Where we're just kind of like, ugh. So, super happy he helped us. Yeah.
What are there? Like, how many other cideries are there in the Raleigh area?
0.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, congrats.
So,
okay.
I think a lot of people looked that we were opportunists, but we truly did want to bring cider into Raleigh. But as the moment, we are technically the only cidery in Raleigh. The closest to us is going to be Bull City Cidery in Durham, which they are phenomenal and a large operation and have done an incredibly good job. And then there's Botanist and Barrel, who are good friends of us in Cedar Grove, North Carolina, about an hour away from here. They're actually a blueberry farm. And
was that south of here? Where is Cedar Grove?
Cedar Grove is north of here.
Oh,
so
north
about,
of here. Okay.
I'd say maybe like 30 miles north of Durham.
Okay.
If you're going up to like the Shenandoah Valley, you'll pass them basically from here. And they make some, like we have 2 of theirs on draft right now. They make some incredible fruit wines, and they're very experimental and extremely knowledgeable. So big fans of them.
How many do you have? How many different styles?
Right now we're doing 8 different ones, and that's our goal to do with our own.
Yeah.
But right now we're carrying 8 different ciders from I'd say like 6 different cideries, ranging from Botanist to Shacksbury to Potters in Charlottesville, Virginia, all sorts of stuff. So we're really kind of what we're trying to do is when customers come in, kind of show them what good ciders can be. We've carried a lot of Noble out of Asheville, who are making just some incredible stuff. They have a one called the Golden Arrow, which is one of our best-selling, and it's made with raw and candied ginger, and is a refreshing, balanced, and awesome. So our goal is to really make kind of approachable, sessionable, drier ciders. And we want to really educate. There's I'd say every other person comes in here. I'm not a cider person, and I love that. I love that statement because then we can sample them on stuff and kind of like get an idea of where we want to go with that.
Yeah, I'm not a cider person.
Sure.
So tell me, I mean, what it like? Like clearly this is a growing thing, and you're starting to hear about cider. So congrats on being the first one here.
Appreciate it.
But what is attracting people to these high quality ciders that folks like y'all are making?
So a couple different things, I think. I'd say another option besides a brewery, right?
Yeah.
There are breweries everywhere. North Carolina's been very good to its breweries. We have some of the best breweries in the state.
Sure.
Ranging from Trophy here in town to Burial in Asheville. I mean, North Carolina is known as a craft beer state, right?
Yeah.
So once again, we have 8 different beers on draft as well. We're definitely doing those, and we understand that not everyone wants to come here and have a cider, so that's why we have good beers.
Yeah.
But the cider trend, once again, my generation didn't think about it. I thought of it as woodchuck or Angry Orchard or just stuff I just would never have drank.
Same.
As a cider or as a beer guy.
Yep.
I like IPAs and blah, blah, blah. I'm pretty typical. I look like it, honestly. So the first time I had a Shacksbury dry, it blew my mind. It's a dry, it's classic. They're out of Vermont, and they're about maybe 5.5% alcohol. And I always thought it was going to be more alcohol.
Well, that was my next question is what's
Yeah.
how, okay, so
So-
it's the same relative
Yeah.
range that you might find in
And
beers?
it can definitely change with like some of the higher end stuff that like Botanist does or Artifact and different people where they have, closer to wine. Cider is more like wine than beer.
Okay.
The way that it's made, the way that it's a single, it's one fruit basically is apples. That's the base of cider. But the way that we can manipulate the sugar in cider, we can make lower ABV, like sessional, dry, easy drinking stuff. So a lot of people, when they think of sweet cider, that can come from the apples, that can come from whatever, but larger companies will actually back sweeten with sugar or fructose or anything like that. And what that does is actually speed up the process. To make a batch of cider is probably twice as long as it is to ferment a batch of beer.
Okay.
So that's one of our biggest challenges is the space.
How long is it?
It's typically between 5 and 6 weeks.
5 and 6 weeks.
Yeah, where like
Okay.
let's say like just a normal IPA you find in the grocery store, it could be anywhere from like 18 to 22 days.
Okay.
So it definitely is more involved with the time, but we don't actually brew cider. We make cider. So we pitch yeast, we pitch adjuncts, we do all that type of stuff. But one of our goals is not to back sweeten too much, so that the alcohol is natural from the apple juice that we get. When you bite into an apple, that's pretty sweet. So you don't really need much more sugar.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
So,
Sure. So then, where do you like? You could go through a lot of freaking apples to make this stuff. Or
Yes.
do you get them? Like, do you have certain farms that you get them
We
from?
do.
Or?
So before we opened, we went to a bunch of different orchards in western North Carolina and in the Shenandoah Valley, and got to know them and got to kind of hang out with them and see. We one of the big ones we're working with is a 7th-generation farm out of Tyro, Virginia, and they just have just unbelievable property, and they make tons of amazing apples. And so basically what we do with this space right now, we buy freshly pressed apple juice, like pressed, put into a tank, brought here, we'll make cider.
Okay.
So, eventually if we have a production facility and we get bigger or something, we'd want to get apples. But right now...
But so they pick their apples, press their apples, make the juice, and then you buy... Okay, got it.
They grind them and then press
Okay.
them, and then we buy their juice like that day, basically. So it's a lot of, organization and it's a lot of transport.
Right.
So, if you wait too long, apple juice can start to ferment. So you got to make sure that you get it fresh and will get delivered. And we've done some test batches at our home and that type of stuff, but we're excited to get to do our first batch here.
How do you transport it?
Basically IBC totes, so 250-gallon IBC totes.
Okay.
And they're just those big plastic food grade things. And so we bought some, so a few are at different orchards, so when we're ready, they fill them up and they'll ship them to us.
They ship them?
Well, with like a freight company.
Yeah,
So that's
okay.
probably the most expensive part.
Yeah, right.
Right now, it's not a great time.
Yeah.
We are in eastern North Carolina, so we're not getting apples from, local.
Right down
We're
the
going to try to
right,
keep
sure.
as local as possible, and we're lucky that the Shenandoah Valley is 3.5 hours, western North Carolina is 4. So we're going to try to keep as local as possible, but we are in, Raleigh, North Carolina. This is not apple country.
What
So-
did you? So you bought this big tank you bought from the folks down there in Charlotte on auction. Did you learn anything from them about what they didn't get right?
Not really. So I don't know them personally. I've
Okay.
had some of their stuff. It was really good. What I've know is that they opened like literally like a month after the pandemic. So that's a really tough road.
Time. New
Yeah.
concept.
New concept.
and
It was
new-
a very
yeah.
cool space. It was a very large space.
Where was it?
Obviously, it was south in Charlotte.
South End, yeah,
Yeah, it was
sure.
like kind of in that brewery road.
Yeah, I mean
down
that's
there.
a good location. So
Yeah,
it's
and
just a
I don't know what happened, and I won't speak to them, but I know there was a big location, and I think the timing was pretty bad.
Yeah, it's tough.
I mean, I worked for a brewery, when the pandemic happened,
Yeah.
and through the pandemic, I saw what was happening. I mean, it certainly wasn't a fun time.
yeah.
So I'm not 100% sure it happened, but that's where we got it from. We also got our keg washer from them. and then a few other things. So, I certainly don't wish anyone bad, but I'm glad we got that tank. So,
There, I see that Falcons container up there.
So we're Georgia boys.
Yeah, I know you're Georgia boys, man. You better keep that Falcons container out around with these Panthers
I know.
fans.
Well, if it was up for Dustin, this whole place would be Falcons themed.
I bet.
He's the true fan for sure.
Fair enough. They're serving. I guess it's been for a few years now. They serve alcohol at the NC State football games. Do they have cider? Are there ways you can get in there and get some cider sold at
So I would imagine they do. Or they might have seltzer. Seltzer and cider are kind of interchangeable a lot of places, which they're not, in my opinion. But at this facility, the only plan of packaging that we are going to do is kegs. Yeah. We just don't have enough space.
Do they do kegs at like the frat parties and stuff on campus, or where do people drink this cider the most? Like, is it coming to a cidery, or is
it's going to be? Well, I mean, I hope they're coming to this.
That
will be our number one. But our plan is we don't want a huge wholesale business out of here.
Yeah.
Our plan is to sell to our friends in places that we like. So North Carolina, especially Raleigh, has a lot of great bottle shops that have drafts. State of Beer. Would be absolutely one that we would love to go to. The trophy locations we would love. We're friends with the people at some restaurants and certain places. So right now that's where they're going. And I think for the type of cider that we're doing, that like Botanist does and whatever, they're depending on those kind of local bottle shops, which are pretty prevalent in North Carolina. I think that's where people are kind of getting to experience more artisanal ciders instead of, Harris Teeter or something like that.
How many cideries are there in the country now?
I don't know that number, but I'm sure the population correlates with the areas. Yeah. So like if you go to Oregon or Washington, I'm sure it's a lot higher there. And then with the eastern part, it's going to be Vermont, and it's going to be more where apples grow.
I was going to ask, is it there are a lot of them up in like Shenandoah Valley and in Asheville and stuff like that?
If you go, we took a trip last October. If you go to Devil's Backbone Brewing Company is right there. It's kind of the start of like the cider trail. Okay. So there's Blue Toad right across the street from them. There is.
And where is this?
This is you go into the Shenandoah Valley in Virginia. I can't remember the city completely, but basically in between that location.
You say Roanoke?
Huh? No, not that. Devil's Backbone.
Oh, there's that Backbone's at?
Yeah.
It's like all part of that Afton County.
Yeah. Say it again.
Afton County?
Afton County. So
is that like where Winchester is, or is it?
Kind of.
Yeah,
and then, so basically between there and Charlottesville, you can just hop to cideries.
Really?
So there's Potter's, there's Blue Toad, there's, not Bold Rock. Bold Rock. I mean, just absolutely beautiful.
Oh, Bold Rock, yeah.
Beautiful places. Like, we were just like overwhelmed by how beautiful some of these places are because they're just in valleys in in this gorgeous area. Potter's is this old church on top of a hill in a valley, and like, I mean, they got some really cool stuff up there. So we were also influenced by a cidery in D.C. called Ancho, and they do only ciders, and everything comes from within like 200 miles of them. So a lot of the Northern Virginia apples and all sorts of stuff. So there's the more it's conducive for apples, the more it's kind of been common.
Yeah.
So I think that's why we're probably the first in Raleigh. It's just not common here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a good opportunity to go and you educate the market if you can figure out the economics of getting that's
going to be a challenge.
Raw materials from there to here.
So, but if you think about it, beer, everyone says local, which I 100% support, and that's what I do and everything. But those ingredients aren't coming necessarily anywhere local. A lot of them are coming from Yakima Valley or Willamette in Oregon or Germany. Yeah. Right. And same with malts and that type of stuff. So what we can do here is kind of keep it as local. The product can actually be like a roadmap of what the agriculture of the state looks like. Every year is going to be different. Weather depending. A hurricane hits the mountains and a bunch of these apples go, and so there's a big run on certain apples that were meant for grocery stores, but they're not for grocery stores now. So it's really kind of like an almanac of what is happening.
Yeah.
So and so is beer and so is wine, but it's really interesting to see how the weather is going to play a part.
Yeah, absolutely. Coffee's the same.
Agriculture is the same, right?
Yeah.
So it just, to me, I guess working for a large brewery, I never thought about the ingredients as much. I mean, I've been out to the Yakima Valley and Willamette, and the better the ingredients, the better the product for sure. But when you're larger, you have more access to it, and we're not large, so we're gonna be having to work for it for sure. So,
did you all get investors, or did you SBA loan it, or how did you get this thing going?
Luckily, I grew up with a good friend of mine since we were kids, who has money. And when I kind of told him the idea of this, and he saw what I was doing in my normal life and everything, and kind of just the frustration of not being able to work for myself and everything, he basically said he backed me.
Oh, nice.
I think he probably regrets that now, because that
not
was
a bad thing, huh?
That was 3 years ago, so we had to go back and ask for more money and more money and more money. So we are 100% privately backed.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
man.
so with ownership and all sorts of stuff. So we're extremely lucky.
Well, that's a good thing, man.
Yeah.
I mean, that makes it a lot easier when you don't have 15 investors with a cap table and different expectations and different. I mean, especially when you're in a situation where you're having the delays of COVID and all that kind of stuff. And well, congrats, man.
Thank
Owning
you.
it's a big change, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And
it's a lot of it can be lonely. It's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah.
You guys got to figure out how to operate well as partners and all that kind of stuff. There's so many unique dynamics.
It's gone well so far. We certainly get on each other's nerves every once.
It's impossible not. Yeah, I mean that's going to happen.
I'm pretty annoying, so I can understand that. But it feels we had our opening weekend and we were slammed.
When was your opening weekend?
It was about a month ago now. So I can't remember the actual date.
How did you advertise that? Primarily
Instagram.
Social media, or
That's it.
That's it.
So, and we still kind of our soft opening, because we want to call our grand opening is when we have our actual product.
Your actual product.
We're not technically right now a cider.
Right.
We pretend we are, but we're not until we actually have our own product. That's when we're going to do our grand opening.
So is your social media done in house? You mentioned that.
Yeah. So we actually work with a friend of mine named Emily Winters, and she owns a company that she just founded herself called The Social Rising. And she actually bartends here as well. So
nice.
In the beginning, it was really difficult for her because we didn't have that much content for her.
Yeah,
She'd be like, "What's new today?" And we'd be like, "Oh, we got floors, and you can't really put that on Instagram."
Right. Yeah,
so
it's not real interesting.
It was a struggle getting her content for a while. Now that we're open and our patio is done, we put turf out there that we didn't think we were going to do until we realized we had to, that type of thing. So
it looks cool.
Yeah, we're really, really happy with the way that it looks. And so now that she's here, she has a lot more content, and so it's been a lot easier for her.
How do people get over here? Is there a lot of residential around here?
Yeah,
how do people?
We are in, I'd say, Midtown Raleigh. We're basically sandwiched in between 5 Points, North Raleigh, downtown, and East Raleigh. This really is the heart of what's going on in Raleigh right now. We're 5 minutes from downtown. We're 5 minutes from North Hills. We're basically in 5 Points. This area is probably one of the fastest growing in Raleigh. So across the parking lot from us here will be phase 2 of East End Market, and that will be 500 residential apartments. That will be office space. That will be retail. There's going to be all sorts of things. And then 200 yards away from us over Atlantic they're building a thing called the Ironworks, and that's going to be just an amazing, amazing new development. It's actually the same people who did Ponce City Market in Atlanta. This is a very well-known developer group, and they're going to have restaurants, retail, living, all sorts of stuff. So this area in 5 years is going to be absolutely incredible. But even now, I mean, we still look like we're in a construction zone, turning into here. You're like, is this the right place? And then you see us and you're like, oh, it is the right place. So we're a little hidden, but we know what we're going to have.
What you're going to have, yeah.
So,
yeah, and you'll grow into it. Well, you got a lot of parking out there.
Yes.
You got
We'll eventually have a parking deck across, and then
okay.
all this parking that you see is going to be green space in between the two developments, and we are extremely lucky to be in this building. They turned down a few breweries to be here and liked that what we were doing, like that we were local and liked our concept. So this was we're very happy.
Yeah, man, absolutely. What's been outside? Well, I mean, gosh, I bet I can think of the first few answers, but
Sure.
outside of COVID and all these delays and things you couldn't, have accounted for, going from working for people for a long time to now working for yourself, biggest upside and
Sure.
biggest
Downside?
challenge. Yeah.
I think the biggest upside is obviously this is something I've wanted to do for my entire life. I've always wanted to own something and work for it, and I put the same amount of effort into everything that I've ever done. So
Right, but
it's so nice that now it's for me
Yeah.
instead of another company. I was, like I said, I was previously with Trophy, and I had a pretty large amount of autonomy just because of my relationship with the owners. But what they did was give me the experience of running a place before I actually ran a place.
right.
So that was invaluable. I mean,
Sure.
literally, I was managing the tap room over at Maywood on Trophy, or Trophy on Maywood. And then they said, hey, you're going over to State of Beer to run that. And I was like, oh, no, I don't want to. And they're like, oh, yeah, you are. And I was like, okay. And that was a totally different learning experience.
Yeah.
And, with POS systems and ordering and all that stuff where,
Right.
I got that experience. But the downfall of owning, I think, is you almost kind of feel like that kid again in elementary school. It was like, are people gonna like me, and are they gonna come to my birthday party, basically?
Right.
So, and I always did, like, if I did events at Trophy or a Terrapin or a Rogue or whatever, and it wasn't well attended, or you just didn't do it right, or you always kind of feel like it's on you. And now it just always feels it's like it's
on
us.
you. Yeah,
So
right.
we had to be a little bit kinder to ourselves sometimes, because our opening weekend was gangbusters. It was just, amazing, and the amount of positivity. And we've been sitting in this space thinking that it's cool, but no one's really come in besides like our girlfriend and our wives or our friends, who are always going to tell you it's nice, right?
Right.
And to see strangers walk in and look around and be like,
Dude, I mean,
blown away is such a cool feeling. So
yeah. I mean, I'm not always, I do a lot of these. I'm not always
Yeah.
like, hey, I need a bunch of pictures of the interior. No. I mean, it's just, this is really unique and memorable. I mean, y'all knocked it out of the park, in my opinion.
Yeah, we're super happy with it. And like I said, to watch people really enjoy it has been such a nice thing. Our opening week, amazing. And then the Monday hits and we don't have that crowd yet. And so we're kind of like, oh, okay. So you realize that we had to build this still. You can never think that it's going to be turnkey and you're going to be successful. There's always going to be things that we have to. And if you think you're successful, you don't have to do anything, that's when you're going to start falling.
Yeah,
right? So,
that's right.
We're a month in. We have so much more to do and grow and learn. And,
Yep.
we want to do events. We want to do all sorts of different things that we haven't had the chance to quite yet. So we're growing. We're super happy with it, but we're nowhere where we think we can be and where we want to be.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so it's going to take some time and it's going to take some education. A lot of people, I mean, myself included, up until 5 years ago, I don't really want to go to a cidery. I didn't think about it. I want to go get a beer or something. So what we want to do is really educate the people that think like that to try us out.
Yeah.
And if it's not for you, we got beer, we got wine, we got whatever. But we really wanted to create this kind of community space where family friendly, dog friendly, just a bright, nice place to hang out. And that's really all I want. when I go out to places too.
Sure.
So, and I want a good patio, and our patio is pretty awesome.
What about food? I see chips. So, like, are y'all able to serve food too?
We're not able to cook. We don't have a kitchen or anything. We're going to be trying to have some food trucks on the weekends, but when the restaurants open around here, we're probably not going to have food trucks because they don't really want to compete with that. We're going to add our snack selection up a little bit more, so maybe some dips and some, stuff like kind of keep shareables and that type of things, some charcuterie, that type of stuff. But we also encourage people to bring whatever they want. And there's restaurants all over the place right here, so we're getting there. But right now we're just kind of focusing on it, and hopefully we can add in some more stuff.
Yeah, you will. I was just curious. I mean, it's not,
Well, we quickly. I mean, that's how you keep people here, right? Get some munchies or some snacks, and we'll never have like a full service kitchen here. But around us, as this place gets built more and more, hopefully we can work with the restaurateurs and have some kind of coexisting thing. Where
for sure.
Go next door, grab something, and come over here, have a cider, and chill out on our patio.
Yeah, get takeout and bring it. That's right. Yeah, for sure. Well, I have to say, I mean, I'm very interested. Like, I don't know, I don't remember the last time I had any cider, but it was for the, like, so I definitely want to try some.
We'll work after this. We're going to sample use on some. So it's the look. It's almost there. And this was a large part to Chem Studios and basically just us being here. So as soon as Common Desk was built, which is a shared working space on the other side of the complex, that's where we worked out of. So when our contractor, Williams Realty, who are absolutely fantastic, had a question, we would just kind of run over here. So it became a lot easier to be like, no, we like the way this looks and that. And, and I personally ordered all the lights, all the furniture, all it was kind of a combination of just, I knew what I wanted, but I'm not as talented as other people, so I can kind of like look at what they had and then kind of tailor it to what we wanted. Yeah. So we still got some work to do.
Are you, well, okay, so if you're from, you're both from Athens. Are you a Widespread Panic fan?
Yeah, I think you have to be. It's in our blood, but no, I actually am. I always tell people I'm 37.
Yeah.
And I grew up basically downtown Athens. I mean, very, very close to campus and everything. And there's this huge, it was one of the biggest things, it was called Panic in the Streets in Athens, Georgia. Yeah. And I was like 7th grade, I was at Panic in the Streets. So, a lot of old hippies. I'm like, I was there. So.
It's like a live double album, isn't it?
Yeah, and it was basically, they didn't expect what was going to happen. And the town got flooded. And just people everywhere. There was no it wasn't like Woodstock 99 or anything like that, but
I've seen pictures.
It was very overwhelming, and I remember being like, maybe I'm too young to be here, but my parents were having too good of a time. So, Athens is a very musical town.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, REM, B-52s, everything. Yep. So definitely ingrained within ourselves, and it's a great place to grow up and go to college, but it's also, a 25, you're an old man there.
Right.
So you gotta figure out something.
No, you're in a good place here, man. No, Tons of growth here in Raleigh. It sounds like in this specific area, and then just the city in general.
Yeah, I mean, the city of Raleigh is, I think, ranked number 2 at the hottest cities in the country right now.
For sure.
Which, if you told me that 3 years ago, I'd be like, well, why? I have no clue. And our property values are exploding, and there's construction everywhere. It's really interesting to see what the city is going to turn into, because it was kind of sleepy, about a decade ago, and now it's the opposite of that.
Did Chris and Woody over there at Trophy give y'all advice on lease negotiation? That's a big nut to crack.
Any question I had, I basically went to Chris.
Yeah. Okay.
So
because you get that wrong, and it can cause all kinds of challenges.
Their other partner in Trophy Brewing, his name is David Meeker, and David is he's the type of guy that the city needs and that the city is growing with.
Yeah.
So he actually started commercial real estate agency called Elm Partners.
Okay.
And we were basically their first client. So my original building that I was going to go into was David's complex.
Okay.
And so when he had to tell me that it wasn't going to work after the pandemic, I looked like someone shot me. I was so absolutely, because I had designed it already. Like, we were signed, we were good. And he looked me in the eye and said, "We're going to find you something."
Yeah.
And so he was our broker, did this, made the connections with our property manager, which is Atlas Stark.
Uh-huh.
We absolutely love them. They're some of the best guys we've met, and if they're here, they're actually, their office is in the same complex. They're here at 5 o'clock, and without the help from Chris and David and pretty much just everyone in that organization, this would have been a lot harder. So we're internally grateful. I talk about it so much that people think that they're involved. And they're not. They're literally just emotionally involved, and that's it.
Man,
so I lucked out.
Sounds like, you keep saying luck, but you've done a good job of making good relationships with people that trust you. I mean, you got a friend that wants to financially back you. That's huge. And luck, but you're obviously a good dude, and you attract good people, and you obviously have given people a lot, and they give back. And is it Atlas you said is your landlord?
Atlas Stark,
yeah, that's cool, man. Like, it's good. You never know, like, you get landlords that have the long view, which they obviously do, and they know what's going on here and stuff like that, and they want to be your partner, and they want you to be successful. And then you can get sometimes where you get into it's more adversarial, and it's not as maybe more myopic and stuff like that from the landlord's point of view. So it sounds like y'all have got a lot of really good things going for you, man. And you're on the front end of a clear trend. I mean, I remember so in Chapel Hill, there's a place called Top of the Hill Restaurant and Brewery, and they've been there. They're right on the corner in the main intersection in Chapel Hill upstairs.
I know exactly what you're talking about. Yep.
Been there like 25 years, and they're a customer of ours. And Scott Maitland, the proprietor there's, he's been on the podcast a few times, and he was telling me the story. I mean, like, when he first went in there, he had to really convince the landlord to let him go in there, not a TGI Fridays.
Sure.
And but it was a brew pub, and nobody did brew pubs back 25 years ago.
Jeez,
and like, now, they're everywhere. And but he was, he had to really convince the guy, like, this can work. Like, they just, and it took a while. There they are 25 years later, and just doing great, and nobody would think like a brew pub couldn't work anymore. And,
sure.
Cideries will be like that, and down the road
that's
too.
The goal. And what we're really excited about is a lot of this development in Raleigh. What they are looking for is local or independent.
Yeah.
We don't know exactly what's going to be next to us, but I know it's not going to be a Subway.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah.
or
that's what
whatever.
that's what your audience is looking for too.
I mean, Subway. So.
No, they ain't looking for Subway. I mean, people really care about that more now, and they like, particularly in like these clusters and things like that. Like, you're going to have
this
like-minded customers that will patronize all of you because you're local.
Yeah, exactly. And when I say it's, a lot of people ask who we were back from or whatever, and I was like, no, we're just literally two friends who wanted to do something for ourselves, who worked really hard in our fields. And a beer rep past 35 is no one really knew what it looked like.
Yeah.
And we wanted lives, and we wanted to be around our kids and that type of thing.
Yeah, right.
It's fun at 25. Let me tell you that. That was
sure.
a great time. But at 35, it's like, the last thing I want to do is a beer festival or something like that. And our careers advanced to where we were managing people, and a lot of it was just going into warehouses and fighting for space and doing all sorts of stuff. So to get to work together on this has been it's a blessing.
Yeah. Good, man.
I sounded really Southern there at the end, so a blessing.
Well, the funny thing is you're from Athens, and you don't sound really Southern,
my dad's British. My mom's from the Midwest. And Athens is, even though it's deep south, isn't at the same.
Right.
It's a very blue dot in the university, and get me around a couple of Southern people, it might come out a little bit more. But moved me 10 miles south of Athens, it would have been a different life.
Yeah,
So,
no,
yeah.
I mean, you didn't stick out in Portland clearly, like, you know.
Yeah. So Portland, what a beautiful city. But I'm good. So
yeah, I hear you. Well, cool.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, thanks for doing this.
Of
Congrats
Thanks
on
for
this
having
place.
us.
This
Yeah,
awesome
excited.
place.
We're gonna taste you on some cider now.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Yeah, man. I'm looking forward to it. I'm a bit of a. I have to admit, like, I'm 48 now, and now I've gotten to the point where when I go places, I order, like, if I get a beer, I look for something with the lowest alcohol.
Sure.
Like my
Same, and
tolerances.
it's so funny. Like, I remember looking for the highest alcohol when I was younger, being like, "Whoa,
Yeah.
a triple IPA." There's nothing I want less than that at the moment. And cider's to me is a lot less filling.
Yeah.
And you know, in a big part, it's certainly not what we're pandering to, but like the gluten-free
Yeah.
aspect of cider is a huge part of why a lot of people come in.
Sure.
Because, you know, maybe they
I didn't even think about that, but that's a big deal now, and
It
more
is
and
a
more
big
people
deal.
are sensitive to it or have issues with it. Or
and maybe they didn't know, and maybe they want
Yeah.
to try something else. And we get a lot of those stories where it's like, I can't drink beer the way I used to, or I just don't want to, or, you know, that type of thing. So it's a nice alternative.
Yeah.
Where it can drink like a beer. We're going to hop ciders. We're going to do all sorts of different stuff to it. But the gluten intolerant are, you know, it's a larger and larger group. So
Yeah.
that's been another benefit for sure.
yeah, good deal.
Not that they're gluten intolerant, but that they can enjoy
Yeah,
something.
sure.
Beside, you know, because the culture here is you know, go out with coworkers to a brewery, and for those people there wasn't as many options,
yeah.
and so we want to kind of cover everyone here. Yeah.
Love it, man. All right. Well, thanks for doing this.
Thank you so much for
Appreciate
having
the
me.
opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for using ScheduleFly too. Appreciate the
Love
business.
ScheduleFly. We're not going away anytime soon. So
Appreciate
we
it,
have all
man.
these hats that you brought us.
That's right. Yeah, hats and socks, man. That's
Hats and
right.
socks is what you need.
All righty. Well, that's a wrap, y'all. Thanks for listening. See ya.